everybody, it's Stevie B at PTC, and I'm back again with another episode of PTC Live. And I'm here today with a good friend of mine. We want to say a strong welcome, a warm welcome to Miss Ruthie Buse, who is the Director of Veterinary Technology. She's here to tell us about her program and all the wonderful things that are happening on the Vet Tech program on our Newberry campus. So Ruthie, how are you doing today?
I'm great. Good to be with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, we're glad to have you. One of our most exciting programs, one of our large programs, one of those most intriguing programs, things that people like myself want to know. What's going on with the animals? I asked you earlier today, I hit you with my question about hip dysplasia in German Shepherds. How about that?
Very good.
But before, let's get started by you telling us, what is vet tech?
Okay, well, that is a very good question, and it doesn't always sound like what it is. So it is the veterinary nurse is the equivalent of a human nurse in a veterinary hospital. And so a veterinary technician is working with animals, doing what a nurse would do in the same situation in a human hospital. So they help do diagnostics, draw blood, take x-rays, they help with surgeries, place IV catheters, all those kind of things that you think of with the human nursing is what we're teaching our students on the veterinary side.
And just like our other programs that have transfer capabilities, your veterinary technology students, your vet tech students have those transfer opportunities as well to go into higher levels of medical care for animals as well, right?
They do. With the veterinary technician, that level of a degree, we're getting the student an associate's degree.
Mm-hmm.
There are some veterinary technology degrees that are bachelor's programs. But it is still, that's kind of a nursing track. And that's one thing I wanted to talk about was the kind of the separate tracks for the doctor of veterinary medicine versus the veterinary technician that's the nurse. So those are two separate tracks. And I feel like a lot of young people do ask me about, well, I'm thinking about vet school. I don't know if I can get in. And so my best piece of advice is for somebody who wants to work with animals, but they're unsure about, which level they want to go. They can all start at Piedmont Tech because I really feel like Piedmont Tech does an excellent job of getting people off to a great start with their education right after high school and sometimes during high school for those dual students. But it really helps them to see which path they want to take. And I do feel like pretty early on, you need to look and research about vet school versus a veterinary technician track. With the veterinarian, they can still start at tech and do an associate in science is what I recommend, because that associate in science is going to be your biologies and your chemistries, those classes that will transfer to a pre-vet major at Lander or a pre-vet major at Clemson, those kind of bachelor's programs that are related to animals. So because with vet school, they're going to require a lot more requirements to get into those programs. And they typically do require a Bachelor of Science to apply to vet school. And then vet school is another 4 years after that. So that's a total of 8 years, just like a human physician goes to school for 8 years, a veterinarian goes to school for 8 years. So that is the doctor track, but they could still start at tech and get that associate in science and then transfer to a 4-year. With a vet tech degree, it is a separate track. And so they can pursue that higher level of a bachelor's in veterinary technology, but that is still considered, on the nursing track. So it's pretty separate from vet school, but it is still working with animals. So the veterinarian does, basically they should do 4 things. So they should be the ones that should diagnose. So that they're the ones that actually have to come up with the diagnosis. They prescribe medications, so they're going to be the ones to write the prescriptions. They prognose, which means that they're saying the chances of the animal's survival, those kind of things. And then they're going to, I've lost my 4th one, diagnose, prescribe, and surgery. So they can do surgery as part of their treatment plans. So the vet's really supposed to do those 4 things, and the veterinary technician or the nurse can do all of the other things. So they're helping with diagnostics, they're helping helping the doctor to decide what the diagnosis is. Of course, they're helping with surgeries, they're monitoring anesthesia, but they're capable of doing a whole lot for the veterinarian and freeing up their time for the vet to do those 4 things. So I feel like the nurse has to do a whole lot. And it's not just one species either that we're working with. So we're working with lots of different species in our program, and in most of your vet clinics, they're going to see more than one species.
Fantastic. Now, having been there myself and having had you take me on the grand tour and watching the program grow over the last few years, our veterinary technology program is a state-of-the-art facility. Tell us about some of the state-of-the-art technology that you have now, some of the growth potential. Just share with us what's going on in there with all that great stuff that you guys have to work with now.
Sure. Well, we have like the whole left wing of the Newberry campus is the vet tech wing, I call it. And so we have basically a small animal hospital within the school. So we have a surgical suite, we have a full radiology suite. I have a treatment area that has your standard blood work that they can do in a small animal clinic. We have a dedicated cat room for our cats that come from the shelter. We have our rodent room, our lab animal room. So that I always like to mention them too, because we do work with lab animals as well. And then we also have our dog kennel that has indoor, outdoor space. We have some exercise yards. And so when we have dogs, they can come and play outside and get some sunshine. So the shelter dogs always enjoy that. So they get a little time outside too. But we have our own classroom and at our offices. And the 3 instructors are all full-time instructors. So it's myself, I'm the program veterinarian, and then there's also Melissa Entrican that we just hired full-time last year. And then Tanya Niles is the other full-time instructor, and both of them are licensed vet techs, and they also have specialized. So that was one thing I wanted to circle back to, was that once you graduate from a vet tech program, you can also specialize into, I think there's 16 different specialties now. So if people have a special interest in surgery, that's the specialty that Tanya has, is a specialty in surgery, and Melissa's specialty is in emergency and critical care. And she still works for Upstate Veterinary Specialists in Greenville and their emergency department. And so that they both have specialized and gone on further than their vet tech degree, and that's taken them into their chosen specialty as well. So that's something that our graduates can do as well.
Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. When you think of those centers, and I've been there and I've seen some of the animals and the different types of animals that you guys work with, you know, the perception for some is that we only work with small animals. And I know that we do, but is that all? Is that the limit that we have from vet tech?
Definitely not. We have our lab animals that live here all the time. So we have rats and mice on campus. They're in cages, so nobody has to worry about them sneaking or anything. But we do have a rat colony, and we're considered a research facility, even though we're not doing any true research here. USDA classifies us as a research facility, so we have to meet all of their expectations for housing for the animals and records that we have to keep for the animals. We have an IACUC committee that helps us to make sure that we're doing proper animal care. So that's a big deal. And so we do have to, report to USDA. So the rats and mice live here all the time. And then we have our dogs and cats that come in weekly, and the shelter is really good about that. The Newberry County Animal Care and Control, there are, right-hand group of people that help us, and whatever the students are learning about, they can usually find, an animal that's got a certain disease, that we need to look at, or skin conditions or dirty ears, things like that. Whatever we're teaching the students, they are usually have what we need. And we also have large animal class too that I teach in the summertime. And so we go to local farms and work on sheep and goats and cattle and horses. And so they do learn about all different species. I say the only species that they don't get a whole lot of exposure to are snakes, because I am not a snake vet. I'm not a fan of snakes. I like my mammals, and I can deal with birds most of the time, but I'm not a big fan of snakes. So I'm not a snake vet. So as long as I'm here, they're not going to get much hands-on with the snakes.
Well, that's excellent as well. Of course, when you go into a program, and our students come to Piedmont Tech expecting to change their lives by getting training that leads them directly into the workforce. So take a time to tell us about employment outcomes and the types of jobs our students get.
Definitely. So we train them for any type of clinical practice. So a lot of our students do end up working in small animal clinics because that's where most of the jobs are. But they can certainly work with large animals. So they do get some equine experience and large animal managers for that for their research lab, and they can work with any species really. But that a lot of the jobs are small animal based in the clinics. But everything from government jobs, USDA research. Um, they can run the gambit of where they can go and where they can work in their chosen field. So lots of different options. But the small animal clinics and usually in the bigger cities are the ones that are going to be the higher paying jobs. But a lot of our students, when they go to their externship sites, that's usually where they end up getting hired on. So they do such a great job as a student working there for free as they doing their clinical sites. They end up getting job offers before they even graduate from our program. So they're definitely in demand, and a lot of veterinarians call us or email us and say, when can we come in? And we actually had to do a virtual job fair just for them last year. So that because we had so many vets that were saying, I can't be there, but can we do something virtually? So we ended up doing a virtual job fair last April. And that was really successful. We got a lot of vets to participate and talk about their, what they had to offer and kind of compete for our students. So they definitely there's a job market out there. So they definitely don't have to look far to find a job. So.
And let me be the one to say this. It's a big time number when 82% of your graduates are getting placed in the field.
Right. And a couple of those actually were ones that didn't have a job, were actually because they were either moving or because they were going on for their bachelor's degree. So really they weren't searching for a job right away. They were waiting until after they graduated to either move or to continue with their education. So yeah, they're definitely, I think we'll have 100% this time because it's really, everybody's knocking down the doors to try to get them to come work for their clinics. So.
Do our students, are those jobs pretty localized? Are they statewide? Any students, I mean, where are those jobs available?
Well, and our students are from so many different places too. So that's one advantage that we try to help our students by them only being on campus 2 days a week. So a lot of them do travel quite a ways. We've had students from Fort Mill, Rock Hill area, all the way to other side of Columbia. With us being at the Newberry campus, we get a lot of students from out of our 7-county region. And so do get the Newberry tuition rate. So once they're in the program, if they're from Richland County or a county that's not in Piedmont Tech service area, they do get the Newberry tuition rate because we are trying to serve the middle of the state. And so a lot of job opportunity is in around Columbia, those areas. But we've had students from down near Orangeburg and Minetta, that Bridge Spring kind of area. We've had them from all over the state, so they have lots of job opportunities and they can be close to home. So
fantastic. After graduation, talk about some of the specializations that students have an opportunity to go into because they're prepared, they're well prepared, they're talented, they're skilled, jobs are available. But there's more to be gained, and there's more that they're prepared for, and sometimes those options become available to our students through specialization.
Exactly. Yep. Some of the specialties, behavior. A lot of people really love animal behavior, particularly with dogs and cats, because people have, that's one of the reasons that so many animals go up for adoption and end up in shelters is because of behavioral issues. So behavior is a specialty for both veterinarians and for technicians. Nutrition, emergency and critical care, like I mentioned, anesthesia, equine medicine, and then everything from zoo animals to lab animals. Those are all specialties that they can specialize in once they graduate. And they can do those. They basically have to do a certain amount of case studies and things like that. So they're getting that education, getting that specialization while they're working. So that's, a way that they can specialize in certain, a specific aspect. Dentistry is another one. I forgot to mention that one, but a lot of people, really love small animal dentistry. And of course, every dog and cat, by the time they're about 3 years of age, has some degree of dental disease. So that's a really big field and definitely in demand. And a lot of people, a lot of vets would love to have a technician that is their specialty, that they want to do that, because not every vet wants to do dentistry all day long. We didn't want to go to dental school. We wanted to, do other stuff, but there's definitely a demand for that as well.
I'm getting this visual of vet tech students trying to go in and floss and brush teeth on animals. So I'm sure it's not that, I know.
No,
but you
our
learn something new every day.
Yeah, our patients won't quite let us do that awake, but
I never thought about vet dentistry. But I'm sure it's a specialty.
Oh yes, and if you think about those horses too, that's with us having horses too. I think about equine dentistry is separate, but that's another huge field, and every horse definitely needs dental care too. So it's definitely something that we need technicians to do those things and help us with those.
Sure. One of the other large components and important components of the vet tech process of educating, training, and sending new vets out into society is the clinical phase that are available to students. Talk to us a little bit about the clinical phase of your education of your vet tech program.
Okay. And it's a 5-semester program, and they start going to clinicals in that 3rd semester. So the first 2 are kind of the general things that we want them to know about. So things like breeds and husbandry and restraint and anatomy, physiology, those kind of classes. They'll have those the first 2 semesters, and then starting in the 3rd semester, they do their clinical sites. And so if they are from a long ways away, they can pick their clinical sites as long as they meet our requirements for the program. They can pick somewhere close to home. And some of them even already have jobs in the clinic. And so we'll let them, they're supposed to be unpaid, but they can go to a clinic where they already work part-time, those kind of things. But they're going to do 3 different externships while they're in the program. So that 3rd semester, 4th semester, and 5th semester, they're coming to Newberry for classes and labs here 2 days a week. And they're also going to a clinical site 1 day a week as well. And the clinics, of course, love it because they're getting free labor. Essentially, they're getting our students in the clinics, and that's where they get their real education. I always tell our veterinarians that I'm just so pleased and happy that we have so many clinical sites that want our students, because they definitely can link everything together, from the anatomy and the terminology and breeds and all of that stuff. That's where it really comes together, is when they're actually in the clinic and they can see why that animal is sick, and they can see how this treatment could really help this animal. So so we really push hard, and do have them go to 3 different clinical sites. Other programs that are in the state, there's one at Tri-County in Pendleton, and there's also one at Trident Tech in Charleston, and they only require 1 or 2 externships, where we do 3. Because we really feel like it's really important to get them and let them see different aspects, different types of clinics. Some people that think they want to work with exotics, or they think they want to work with horses, it's nice for them to go to these different clinics and get to experience that, and then decide, oh, maybe that's not what I want to do, or that's really dangerous working with horses, and things like that. So they can see it from different angles and help them to get where they really want to be.
This is a speed question. It just popped in my mind as I think about it. In our, for lack of a better term, our traditionally thought of nursing and health science programs, there seems to be a higher percentage of ladies that go into the field as opposed to males. Does that hold true with vet tech as well, or are there more guys that go into vet tech?
Sadly, no. I wish we did. I wish we had some examples of everybody, but we don't get many males, and that's sad too, because just like with the nursing field, there's kind of that stereotype or whatever that that's a woman's job, whatever. But it really is great to have the male perspective, and of course helping with some of the huge animals that we work with. It's really nice to have a male to help with that too. So my first job out of vet school, actually, one of my best vet techs was a guy that he went to school in Curtis, Nebraska, which is I think they only have 1 vet tech school in Nebraska, maybe. But he was great, and he even drove my truck for me. We went on calls together, but he was my driver. He was my heavy lifter for anything that I could lift, pulling calves in the snow. he was my man. He helped me so much. And so that was definitely a big help to me. And so, but I wish we did have some of both, but we don't have very few males, but we have had some to graduate, and definitely still working in the field. The stigma too is that a lot of times they'll walk into the room with the client and they'll assume that that's the doctor. So if they come in, with the veterinarian and she's a female, sometimes, that's a little daunting for them. They'll say, "Oh, no, I'm not the doctor. I'm the tech." But but there's definitely more girls in our program than boys, but we take them all.
Um, how many animals do we have at the Newberry campus now?
Oh, good. It changes on a daily basis. But with our lab animals that stay here all the time, we have about 30 rats and mice, as I said, in cages, of course. But the dogs and cats come on Mondays. And so sometimes we'll have, we can house up to 8 dogs in separate kennels. And cats, we've got about 6 runs or 6 kennels for in our cat room. But, so that changes every week depending on what we're teaching. And if we're performing surgeries and things like that, sometimes we might have more or less. So, but we've always got a few of every species. I brought a couple of my goats the other day for a makeup lab. One of our students is in the Army, and she had to come back and make up some labs from the summertime. So I brought a couple of my goats, and so they were out in the dog run. They were fine. They didn't mind being out there. So you never know with us what's going to be we're going to find down here. We got an aquarium with some fish and of course our other rats and mice and dogs and cats and everything but snakes. We'll say we have about everything but snakes.
I'm starting to think that snakes might not be your favorite either.
Absolutely not. No.
I was a part of a community program once, and one of it was these community initiatives. I can't even remember the name of it, but it was really serious because the issue that they were confronting, and one of our issues, and people were laughing about it until you start to look into it and realize that it was a real problem in our community, and it was this issue about feral cats.
Oh yes.
And so, what that brings me to my next question is, because one of the persons that was on that panel with us was a lady by the name of Karen Petty, who was in charge of the Greenwood Animal
I know
Show.
Karen. Yep.
Yeah. What is our relationship in Newberry? I'm certain that we have to have a tremendous relationship with our animal shelters in the communities that we serve.
Definitely, and there are some some cat rescues. Some cat rescue groups that are doing a trap, neuter, release program, and so they're trying to manage that feral cat population, because they can have babies every 63 days. They can have another litter of kittens, and so they can produce an astronomical amount if they're not spayed and neutered. And they can also spread a lot of diseases that are contagious to other cats from fighting, that can be very deadly diseases. So they're really trying to help with that problem in any way that they can. And so the shelter does have a huge cat population that they're trying to help manage. Dogs as well. We get a lot of strays, and we do have some rescue groups, especially up north. They have several different groups that are foster to adopt type programs that help once the animals have been spayed, neutered, and taken care of. Then a lot of those do end up going out of state. So we tend to have an abundance down here, and they tend to need some animals up north, and that's dogs and cats. So we definitely got our share.
You said cats can have babies how often?
Every 63 days. Yes, they surely can.
Ooh, I'd hate to be a daddy cat. Ruthie, this has been fantastic. The information has been phenomenal. I've always been tremendously enchanted when I came over to visit your site and to see what's really going on. Sometimes, the programs that we have, when people actually get there and see them, they're really blown away. And your program is one that certainly blows you away when you go in and you see what's going on there. And I know you can talk about it all day long, but we have to wrap up. So in these last few minutes, just anything that you would like to share about your program that I haven't asked about, that you can think of that you want to touch on briefly.
Well, I was just going to mention about what the program requires to get in. We don't require experience to get in, but it's definitely encouraged that, even if it's not a vet clinic, it can be, a kennel, anything animal related, to get some animal experience. I think it does help for students to get a good knowledge base before they come in. And if they do, can job shadow, things like that. A lot of people shadow the vet, and I would much rather them come in having shadowed a vet tech. So I like for them to call a clinic and see if they have a licensed vet tech, that they could shadow the technician instead of the nurse, instead of shadowing the vet, so they can see what the nurse is doing during the day. So I think that really does help students to get an idea of what they're getting into. And we only have 4 prerequisite classes. So we have a Math 102, English 101, Psych 201, and then biology. We're flexible. It can be either biology 101 or 102. That's the only 4 prereqs we have to get into the program. So as long as they've had those, so we've had, like, one of our students now just turned 18, right the same month that she started the program. So we have some that have already taken those classes in dual enrollment and already are able to get in, straight out of high school. So we're thrilled with that. And when we also have students that are non-traditional, that are coming back, and it's, they've always loved animals and they want to be working with animals. And we love those students as well, because we know that they're committed. We know that they really want, they've already worked at a factory. They've already worked, in another job situation, and they realize that this is what their calling is, and they really want to be here. So, so we've had students of all ages, and we're happy to work and get these people educated. And that's been our goal from the start, is to help students, to get graduated from our program and find a job and get licensed. And that's what we're trying to do. That's our whole goal, is to help our fellow vets to get really good qualified technicians to help them to do what they're supposed to do. So, and we always welcome for tours and love for people to come and see what we have. And we're really proud of our program. So we want people to come visit and see what we have, and always looking to improve the program too. So.
Fantastic. Ruthie, thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come and share some information with us, really pertinent information, and quite a volume of information with us here on PTC Live. I've learned some things that I didn't know, and I'm gonna have to keep this cat thing stuck in my head. That'll be an excuse in case anybody I know wants to get a cat. They can't have a cat at Steve Coleman's house. The kids, and I don't want to have to get rid of them. But we appreciate your professionalism and the wonderful representation that you have from Piedmont Technical College. Your program is growing. We're going to do all that we can to push students your way and create interest in your program as well. And thank you so much for joining us here today on PTC Live. And with that, it's Stevie B at PTC signing off for another fantastic session of PTC Live with Ms. Ruthie Buse, talking about our Vet Tech program. We'll be back next week, or our next broadcast, with another exciting program at Piedmont Technical College. Thank you for being with us today.